Senator Sanders.
Yes.
Hi, it's Sam Seder. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, Sam.
So first off, let's start with your reactions to the State of the Union last night.
I thought overall it was a good speech. I think the president made the uncontrovertible point that the economy today is much better than it was 6 years ago. 6 years ago, we were losing 700,000 jobs a month. The deficit was $1.4 trillion, and the financial system was on the verge of collapse. Today, we are doing better, and I think it's very hard for anybody to deny that. But the not so good news is that today we are continuing the 40-year decline of the American middle class. And I think, as most listeners know, there are millions of people working longer hours for lower wages. Poverty is almost at an all-time high, and we are experiencing an obscene level of income and wealth inequality. So we have made some progress over the last 6 years, but for the average American worker, the conditions of today still are pretty dismal.
What do you make about the president not using the word poverty? I mean, not speaking or talking about any proposals that deal with poverty. I mean, what is behind that?
Well, I can't tell you what the president's motives were, but I can tell you that we have today more people living in poverty than almost any time in American history. And a lot of people who used to be in the middle class have, in fact, slipped into poverty. The president also did bring forth a couple of proposals which, in fact, would address the issue of poverty, including making child care more affordable, which is a terribly important issue, and expanding the child tax credit, which also would help low-income people.
One of the things that struck me during the speech, I mean, towards the end, he returned to that 2004 Democratic Convention theme of some sense of there is no red America, there is no blue America. There was equality to the speech at that point, The one thing that I think, as he was sort of talking about both parties crossing the aisle and getting together and being able to pass something, the one thing that sort of resonated with me that really does have a chance out of all of the things he mentioned is one thing that I'm not terribly excited about, and that is fast track authority to push the TPP and the TTIP, I believe it is, or the TIPP.
Well, Sam, what I would say is a couple of things. I'm not as unconfident as many that some of these proposals may not go through, but that has everything to do with the American people at the grassroots level getting involved. Poll after poll suggests that the American people certainly agree with the president, that at a time of massive income and wealth inequality, it is absurd that we have large corporations who in a given year, very profitable corporations, don't pay a nickel in taxes because they take advantage of these outrageous loopholes. Do most Americans think that that's a good idea? No, they don't. Do most Americans understand that today college is impossibly unaffordable for so many, and that we should move forward to make the first 2 years of a community college, I would go further, free? Yeah, I think most Americans think that's a good idea. So interestingly enough, if you look at the proposals brought forth by the president, which says that the wealthy and large corporations should start paying their fair share of taxes so we could help working families in the middle class, people say, yeah, that's a good idea. But what I think we have to do is rally the American people to put pressure on the Republicans so that they, in fact, do what the American people want. Now, in terms of this Trans-Pacific Partnership trade agreement that you refer to, I agree. I happen to be a senator who has both in the House and the Senate voted against virtually all of these trade agreements, NAFTA, CAFTA, permanent normal trade relations with China. And I think the votes that I cast were the right votes, because I think history will record, and the economists tell us today, that these trade agreements have cost us millions of decent-paying jobs, with companies shutting down in America, going to China, going to other low-wage countries. So why the president wants to continue a policy of failed trade agreements and carry it forward is beyond my understanding. I think it's a bad idea, and I will oppose it.
Do you have a sense of where your colleagues, both in the Democratic Party and the Republican Party in the Senate, anyways, where they stand on fast track? I mean, it seems to me, at the very least, those advocating against this trade deal and those who are advocating for it seem to see Fast Track as the linchpin, because that will determine whether or not this thing gets a full airing.
Well, more importantly, it's because in the Senate you're going to need 60 votes for Fast Track. And to pass the trade agreement, you'll only need 50 votes. So if Fast Track is going to be stopped in the Senate, if this trade agreement is going to be stopped in the Senate, it will be stopped with the Fast Track proposal. And I think the other argument against Fast Track is the incredible lack of transparency that has been involved. No member of the United States Senate can walk into the trade representative's office and say, look, here's my trade expert. I want to take a hard look at this proposal. I want to copy down some of these proposals. I want to examine them. You can't do that. What you can do is walk into the office without any staff, without the ability to copy any of the information. So I guess if you have a photographic memory, you can memorize thousands of pages of complicated legalese, you'll be in good shape. But it's an absurd proposal.
I mean, it's being treated as if this is some type of a national security situation.
Right. And, that's right. And it's not. It is an agreement that will impact the lives of, I suspect, millions of American workers, and there are other implications in it as well about issues of sovereignty and whether states and the federal government can make decisions without having those decisions overridden by international courts. It will impact low-income countries as to whether or not they can get affordable prescription drugs. There's a lot in this agreement, and the idea that we have a fast-track process which doesn't allow members to thoroughly examine the agreement before they vote for fast-track is unacceptable. But to my mind, what the speech was about, I think there were a lot of good ideas in it yesterday, ideas that the American people support. I think this TPP idea is a bad one. And we'll go from there.
Lastly on that TPP, I mean, if my audience wanted to apply pressure, where would that pressure be best applied? I mean, do you think that it's going to be Democrats or Republicans who might be most likely to stop Fast Track Authority?
Okay, that's a good question. I think it's both. I think in the House it is. There are a number of Republicans who are opposed to it, including a majority of Democrats. Sam, I've got to run. I've got to get to the floor.
Okay. Well,
all right.
Senator Sanders, thank you so much for your time today. Genuinely appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.